Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Disney Deconstructed podcast. Today, I am joined, as always, by my good friends Jake Moody.
Hello.
And Spencer Bennett.
Wow, guys, Jake's finally back.
Right.
Whoa.
The reason that my hello is so weird is because I was thinking that I guess now we're here. The first thing I want to bring up out of everything is I'm so upset that nobody chose Flight of Passage for their favorite ride at Animal Kingdom. It's been sitting with me for now a week now.
I'm sorry.
I cannot believe that.
Yeah. I was thinking as we were doing the podcast, I was like, wow, Jake would hate this.
And then nobody really even addressed it. We just went, oh, this one's cool. This one's cool. Lane had the dark horse pick of Everest, which I respect. But then we just never talked about Flight of Passage. And you know what? That's fine.
I'm good at playing the dark horse, I'm good at taking that card.
That's cool.
So today we're going to be talking about a few different topics. This may or may not be a bit of a shorter episode, just based on things that have happened in the last week. Mulan is coming this weekend, and so we'll be watching that at some point, and I'm sure that we'll figure out some way to talk about that and what we think of it, and just if the whole Disney Plus thing worked, in our opinion. So I'm imagining we'll talk about that probably next episode, or perhaps the episode after. Our good friends, both of our good friends, Joseph Johnson and Preston Moore, went to Disney World. So we are going to have them on. We're going to try to figure it out to where we can have them on at the same time and just have their two, because they haven't met, like isolated opinions of what Disney World was like, and then just kind of chat back and forth. So that might be like a packed episode, a full house, 5 people, but we'd love to do that. We'll figure something out. Disneyland may or may not be opening soon. It looks like there's some sort of roadmap that's been kind of thrown around Twitter, and we'll take a look at it and see whether or not we think it's possible that Disneyland could actually open soon. We'll do a bit of a retrospective on Galaxy's Edge because, hey, while you've all been quarantining, Galaxy's Edge has been here for a year. So we'll talk about that. It's been here for a year and I still haven't been on the main ride.
Crazy.
But granted, the main ride debuted 6 months after it opened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In my defense. To start things off, though, we are, of course, going to reflect on Chadwick Boseman. As you know, it's awful. It's probably I think it's the first time that I think a big, at least in the Disney realm, a big actor has died since Carrie Fisher, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 2017, I think, because that's the year The Last Jedi came out. And I think it's impossible to talk about. I was so thrilled when he got the role of Black Panther because I had already seen him in 42, the Jackie Robinson movie. And I really liked him as an actor, and I remember leaving that and being like, I want to see that guy in more things. And then a couple years later, he was playing, Black Panther, and I always liked him as an actor. I didn't see 21 Bridges or Marshall; those were the ones that I didn't see. I think, but I've heard that 21 Bridges is entertaining because it's kind of ridiculous. It's that movie, if you guys remember, where in the trailer he's like, close down the island, and then the guy says, which island? And he says, Manhattan. So maybe I'll watch that at some point because it sounds fun. And then, of course, he was in Civil War, Black Panther, Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. And all this time, since I think it was 2016, according to most accounts, he's, been diagnosed with stage 3, recently upgraded to stage 4 colon cancer. And, he passed away on, I think it was 2 days ago at the time that we're recording this. And it was, it was a surreal moment. I think it's one of those deaths where you hear that the person died and you kind of like stop whatever you're doing and think about that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
like I know that the last time that happened, it happened for me with Carrie Fisher. It happened again with Stan Lee. Stan Lee is actually the more recent death, I think, in the Disney sphere. And I remember I was in Target when Stan Lee died, and I kind of like stopped everything and like, I was Christmas shopping. And the same thing happened with Chadwick Boseman. I kind of stopped everything I was doing and kind of, remembered him as an actor. And it's honestly a tragedy. It's really, really sad. I'm gonna give both Spencer and Jake their chance to mention their memories of Chadwick on the screen, because none of us knew him in real life, obviously. Spencer.
Yeah. So my first exposure to Chadwick Boseman was also 42.
Nice.
I think that was probably his big break. I imagine if he did do smaller roles in TV or whatnot that I'd never seen before.
It was the first place I saw him.
Yeah. And then I haven't seen any of his other movies besides, of course, the Marvel films. And I really do want to watch Get On Up now because I am a sucker for music biopics, and he plays James Brown in that.
Yeah.
And obviously James Brown is like one of the great entertainers. So I now feel much more inclined to watch that. But I mean, it's horrible. It's so sad. It's one of those deaths that kind of everybody feels.
Yeah.
There was the Robin Williams, the Carrie Fishers,
Right.
like the really big,
yeah,
the stars that seem to have touched a lot of people when they pass. Like everyone kind of feels it, and I'm not going to pretend that I was, in shambles, like devastated as much as someone who felt such a deeper connection to that character was. But I mean, I love the Black Panther character. I know, like, I'm on record on the show of not being that big on the Black Panther movie, but I never once said he wasn't terrific. I mean, he was great casting. He embodied the role both off and on the screen. There's so many videos that have come out recently of him doing like such sweet things, like to people the biggest fans of Black Panther. There's that video with him on Fallon that went viral a couple days ago where he was like surprising fans of Black Panther. They were like talking to a camera about what they liked about Black Panther, and he would show up and surprise them. And it was, I mean, obviously took on a whole nother meaning after his passing, but I mean, it's so sad. It's so sad for someone that was really kind of felt like just getting his career going,
Right.
He did one film as Black Panther, or 3 films as Black Panther, one like solo film, and we all knew, or 4 films, excuse me, but one solo film, and we all knew Black Panther 2 was in development. That's no surprise. They're probably going to get a trilogy, 4 movies out of it. So it's super, super sad. And obviously he's so young. But I also,
like 43, 44?
I believe 43. Yeah. One of my first thoughts after, sitting with it for a minute was how inspiring he seemed to be as a person. He be in Black Panther shape and to be filming those movies, and how much of a commitment it is to film a Marvel movie or any big blockbuster. Like, that's crazy. And the dude was battling, very serious cancer.
And he literally did it 4 times.
Did it 4 times. I think Civil War was probably in the can by the time he got the diagnosis, because the movie came out in 2016.
Right.
But Black Panther, Infinity War, and Endgame, he fully knew and still like committed that much to the role. Didn't tell anyone, like didn't want to take the spotlight away from, the moment that was those films. And just, I mean, he's, the more you hear about him, the more he seems like he was let alone an incredible performer, just an incredible person. So it's so sad. And I feel so bad for so many people who finally got to see a superhero that looked like them. And it feels like now it's been kind of taken away in a very tumultuous time. So it's obviously couldn't be worse timing and super sad. So Jake.
I mean, you guys said it all. What else is there more to say? Horrendous timing. Seemed like, regardless of him as a person, I mean, Black Panther and him being Black Panther meant literally so much to so many people. And it could not have come at a worse time. It could not have come at a worse year. And it super sucks. Just super sucks. It reminds me a lot of Howard. I don't know if you guys ever got around to watching it.
Howard Ashmore,
Yeah. Well, it just sounds like a very similar situation where they were just like battling things behind the scenes and nobody knew. Meanwhile, this guy was like writing music that's going to live on forever, and Chadwick Boseman was playing this character that's going to live on forever. Mm-hmm. So obviously just a terrible situation, I guess, and it just sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he fully embodied the role of Black Panther both on and off the screen, I think. And
Yeah.
any video you've seen of him promoting it, anything, he is fully in it. And he brings like such a nobility to playing Black Panther that it's you just have to respect the fuck out of the guy.
Mhm.
Especially like with how great of a performer he was, and apparently how great he was to work with, from what a lot of people
an outpouring of all the Marvel
Right.
stars about how wonderful he was.
Yeah, you just have to respect him for all of that, and on top of him, battling and pain, going to treatments and all that. So yeah, a gigantic rift and a gigantic loss. And people are going to feel that loss for a while. But rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. And there are unfortunately other things that we got to get to. We're not going to spend a ton of time just talking about him, but we did want to set aside a bit of time at the top of the show to reflect on him.
Just a weird coincidence kind of thing.
Yeah.
He passed away on Jack Kirby's birthday, who created the Black Panther character.
Oh, so that's so weird.
Wow.
Yeah. I saw that a couple of days ago, and I was like, wow, that's because I remember seeing that morning, oh, it's like Jack Kirby Day, who is, a very, very famous comics person. He's created a lot of characters that most people love, or a Jack Kirby creation. And that is kind of surreal, that the actor who brought Black Panther to life for so many people passed away the same day as the man who was born, who created Black Panther. So it's a pretty crazy coincidence there. I just thought I would share. I thought that was kind of...
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, have you ever been like walking around like a cemetery and you see someone who like died on their birthday?
Yeah.
Like so strange. It's weird.
Yeah. Super weird.
Death is weird, folks. Anyway,
death is weird and death sucks.
Yeah. But yeah, rest in peace, Chadwick. We are going to miss him greatly. All Marvel fans are going to miss him greatly. And with that, we are going to move on to Galaxy's Edge, because it's time. It's been here for a year. It's been rocky. It's been a rocky year. Is that fair to say?
Say it's had a very tumultuous.
Yeah, it's tumultuous. We're open. It's tumultuous.
I'm a writer, guys. What can I say?
Big words. We'll say a big word. Maybe someone will understand it. It's been here for a year. Happy first birthday, Galaxy's Edge.
Orlando Galaxy's Edge. Anaheim debuted in June, so just
right. A bit over a year for them. But both Galaxy's Edge parks are officially a year old. That's why we're doing this now.
Yes.
And so I guess we kind of wanted to reflect on it and maybe think about what's to come. I remember that, it was I wouldn't say very rocky, but it had a tumultuous beginning, It
absolutely did.
We got all that art, all those people talking about how it was going to look, like all the Imagineers. We got so many TV ads. Did not get the droids rolling around. Didn't get any of that. I remember when people threw a fit about the Millennium Falcon being fenced off.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember the fence.
Yeah.
That was a moment.
That was a big day for Twitter.
Yeah. That was a big day for Twitter. There was talk from crazy, ridiculous fan sites that since it was, quote unquote, underperforming in California, even though we've talked about that ad nauseum, what they blocked pass holders.
Perfect.
They're going to turn it into Aladdin. Remember that?
There was that insanity. They were like, they're going to retheme it to Aladdin because of the Aladdin movie. And I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, that'll happen for sure. So Galaxy's Edge is a crazy thing that has been through so many crazy conjectures.
The Coke, remember like the Coke bottle? Yeah, the people were
Coke
pissed about it.
That you couldn't bring on airplanes.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
And on top of all of it, it's impossible to just talk about Galaxy's Edge, at least at Disneyland, without bringing up the fact that like basically every other corner of the park changed to make it to beautify everything and to widen spaces, and they built a whole new parking structure. I'm like pretty sure that the reason they went full steam ahead with the Marvel lands is to try to get other stuff on the other side.
I mean, you'd be hard pressed to not think Pixar Pier was rushed a little bit to try and be a thing when Galaxy's Edge debuted,
right?
To try and maximize offerings.
So lots of things happens with this, with Galaxy's Edge being here for a year. Again, like the second the thing opened, rumors started flying about there being an expansion to make a restaurant or make another cantina because it was such a big hit. That basically got confirmed, by the way. Who knows what'll happen now with COVID and everything going on.
Right.
But,
the hotel.
Anyways, the hotel, right, which is still, I guess, to be seen.
Is that actually still going to happen? I would put money on it at this point.
It's way too far into production to have it not going. Like when we were there a year ago, like the building was there, basically.
And we saw concept art on the bus, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we did.
On the bus TV.
Yeah. If it's on the bus TV, it's coming.
Right.
They can't go back on the bus TV. National Express.
Yeah, they can go back on Diz Twitter, but they can't go back on the bus.
But no, Galaxy's Edge, what we were told we were getting, what we got, what we were told was coming later, and now what maybe isn't coming later now.
Right.
Who knows? Everything.
You mentioned the droids, Lane, and now they did have the droids before they closed. They had R2 walking around and not walking but gliding, and other droids gliding.
You know how R2 skips.
Yeah, he does his thing. But they were starting to what felt like realize some stuff that they kind of put off to just open. And now I'm like, well, if we thought we were going to get the real aliens walking around, that ain't going to happen for 5 more years now because there's no money. And now in all likelihood probably never happening. So it's Galaxy's Edge has also, weirdly enough, was like the most widely publicized and talked about like theme park event. Ever. Like I never had so many people who aren't like total theme park heads like us, like total geeks, who had an opinion on Galaxy's Edge. Yeah. Like even my like parents had opinions on Galaxy's Edge. They'd never even seen it. Like they're not even Disneyland people really, but everyone knew about it because it was so insanely publicized. So I think it was the first time that like theme park culture and like theme park discourse became like mainstream discourse for a while.
Perfect.
So it maybe it set a standard. Who knows? Hagrid kind of was talked about a lot too. So it might have set the standard going forward for really big kind of climactic theme park events. And I imagine Avengers Campus was going to be that too, even though who knows when that's opening now. Speaking of, Josh Tomorrow posted photos in front of the Quinjet.
Oh my God. Yeah. We forgot. We didn't bring that up.
Cool. That's all there is to talk about is he was standing in front of the Quinjet.
But dude, like low key, it looks really good. Like that looks really good.
I can't wait until I can go see it next year. I can't wait.
Right.
So bridging the gap between this conversation and what it's become, and reflect and Chadwick Boseman. A lot of people have been. I think I sent you guys this in our group chat, but I think a lot of people on Twitter who are both fans of the parks and also Marvel and whatnot have been tweeting at Disney that they should make a Wakanda area of a park.
Yeah.
And what I mean, I think that it's a great idea. I like Wakanda as a setting. It's so unique.
Yeah.
I almost like it better than Avengers Campus.
No, I was going to say, had we not just gotten Avengers Campus, I would be totally on board. But now I just don't really think they're going to build a separate Marvel land.
Also, where do you put that?
Here's an interesting thought. Animal Kingdom.
Oh.
They won't, but could be interesting. I mean, you have a whole Africa. Most of Animal Kingdom is like African inspired, at least the outside eye. Like
what? Get rid of Dino Land. No Dino Land.
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda now.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like a cool idea. Unfortunately, I'm always going to be. I'd rather see something just duly original.
Yeah. But think then, man, you would have one park that has both Kilimanjaro Safari, the Expedition Everest, Pandora, and Wakanda.
Right.
It'd be pretty tight.
There'd be a really cool e-ticket probably.
Yeah. So here's what I'm about to say. With I would have told you 6 months ago they're going to close Splash Mountain and replace it with Princess and the Frog, and I would have said you're nuts. So who knows what's going to happen?
True.
They very well could do Wakanda.
True.
I never thought they would do that, and I'm glad they did. That sounds awesome. And if they did Wakanda, I'd be on board with that too. So at this point, never count anything out because they just closed what was to most people like a classic attraction. Yeah. So anything's on the table. Yeah, anything's on the table. Yeah, who knows? The world makes no sense anymore, so I believe anything can happen.
Right, it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bringing this back to Galaxy's Edge, because we got off topic quick.
I do have you go ahead. You go.
Well, I want to prompt you, Jake. What do you want to see done to Galaxy's Edge post reopening?
That is a great question. Now,
bit of a Tomorrowland question thrown at you.
Right. No, it is. Well, here's the thing. I have still in 2020 when there's so much ridiculous news going on, I still think about Galaxy's Edge. And I think about randomly the concept art and the things that were promised, the things that we got and whatever. So I did kind of want to set the record straight on this podcast a year from now, a retrospective, which is why I was pushing for this topic.
Okay.
And it's almost coming back to what Spencer was saying before, how it is like not only the most highly politicized or highly publicized theme park event, but it was one of the bigger events of that year, honestly, was Galaxy's Edge opening on Coast to Coast. So what I would like to say is after visiting it, probably 10 times, got on Rise of the Resistance the one time, but really got to know the area. I think that physically, everything that is there is great. I think that the forest perspective with the mountains in the background, is genuinely really cool and beautiful, and having the bustling, shops and all that stuff. And then having a more foresty area down there. And then talking about how they kind of revamped all of Disneyland to make it all kind of feel like a cohesive situation while also tucking it away in the background. And if you just wanted to have an old school normal Disneyland, awesome. Right? Great. At least in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you start to bring in all the if you just think about it for 2 seconds, it becomes so annoying because they're like, we have to build the second parking structure. And it's we are so clearly last minute changing our plans, and we so weren't ready to have this ride open. And I personally think that the reservation system was terrible. I really did not like
the whole boarding pass thing.
I not only did it not work, but it just didn't work, I guess, on both coasts from what I understand. So I think because it had so much behind it, it fully tainted it. Mm-hmm. And if it just stood for what it was, I'd be like, this is so cool. But I put a lot of time into doing that app. The Spencer, what was the name of it?
The Disney Play. Disney
Datapad.
Play. Datapad.
Yeah, Datapad, whatever.
Okay.
I really was convinced that this is going to be the future of theme parks. And we talked about it plenty of times, how
we did.
It evolved from the wands in Wizarding World of Harry Potter to getting your specific avatar on Flight of Passage and all these kinds of things. And this is
customizing your own car on test track.
Right, customizing your car.
Presented by Chevrolet.
Yes.
But I mean, picturing all of that stuff, which is so fun, multiplying it by 10 and setting it in my favorite IP of Star Wars in my favorite park, Disneyland, I was like, it's going to change everything forever. And unfortunately, I didn't even remember the name of the app, right? It was just some mini games that you could play on your phone, and was a complete and utter afterthought. But it wasn't but it was an afterthought. But they talked about it.
Everyone who used it, I heard, was great. But
I had one really cool experience where I think they knew what I was up to, and the stormtroopers were prompted to say something to me. But honestly, it might have just been a coincidence. So with all that being said, bringing it
But
back
that's the fun of it. You don't know. That's
True.
that Disney
True.
magic, son.
But here's bringing it back to Lane's original question, which is what would I like to see in the future? I would like to see Rise of the Resistance running beautifully and perfectly, and me being able to go to the park and wait in an hour and a half line and experience the thing without a flaw, and it's just a really cool experience, because it doesn't seem like it was there to begin with. And then here's where we run into a wall, me and Disney. The parks were closed for months at a time. And I understand that there were probably crazy construction laws and people allowed to, be in the park to continue working on projects or even just having security there and whatever. I'm talking about while we were on lockdown for COVID, right? But for better or for worse, the park opened in Orlando, and from what I understand, it's still having all the problems, if not having more problems. So that tells me that Disney is like, we build it, it is what it is, and we're just like they promise so much, and still a year from now, this thing still isn't working. Factoring in a 3-month gap where you could have fixed everything. So that's where I run into my wall. I think it's a really, really cool looking place. A lot of fun to be had there. The ride is awesome when it's working, but it just seems like everybody kind of hit like a stopping point when I felt like there was so much more to come. Those are my thoughts after a year.
Wow.
Yeah. I
Thank you, Jake.
Yeah, that was great, man. I would say
well scripted.
I think we don't emphasize enough. We talk about the impact of Galaxy's Edge. That Rise of the Resistance is the best theme park attraction in the world, and it's probably the best Star Wars thing in the world that exists. Even like better. I remember when I first went on it, I was filled with such jubilation that night I wrote up an editorial for the Cinema Spot about why the Rise of the Resistance was the best thing Disney's done with the Star Wars IP, including all the films, and might be the best thing since Empire. I think the title of the review was like Rise of the Resistance is the best thing to hit Star Wars since 1980, which was the year Empire Strikes Back came out. If you're not a super dork like us, but as much as like the land had its kind of crazy moment in the sun, Rise of the Resistance, even when it's not always when it breaks a lot or whatever, when you get it firing, it is like the single most immersive thing I've ever done. And I that cannot be overstated. No one ever thought something would top Flight of Passage in the terms of like the kind of the mainstream consensus is that Flight of Passage was the best and Forbidden Journey a close second. And I was always of the team that I thought Forbidden Journey was more immersive than Flight of Passage. I mean, Resistance to me is better than both of them. So let's not understate or represent how potent. I'm saying a lot of words today.
Yeah, you really are.
How great! Yeah. I just spent 7 hours in class.
I can really tell that you've been in 7 hours of class.
Yeah, brain is fried. But yeah,
apparently
Rise of the Resistance is amazing, and you just need to. We can't understate that.
I know, and I agree. I agree that it is a great. It's awesome. But I've just seen so many pictures and videos about how this thing doesn't work. And even the one time I was able to go on it, I got evac'd literally before I got on the ride vehicle. And then thinking about not only the hype of it as it didn't even open on time, but then this ridiculous boarding pass system that they have. And then it seems like they just ditched it in Orlando now. And
I mean, the park's at limited capacity. It's probably not necessary.
Right. But so it still isn't running the way it's supposed to at limited capacity at a 3-month gap, which means Disneyland's is not going to be running the way it's supposed to, which means if they can't get Rise of the Resistance correct, we're never going to see aliens walking around. We're never going to see little droids walking around. We're never going to get another mission on Smuggler's Run, which was promised from the jump. And it's like, just such a bummer because they politicized or they, publicized and really built up an incredible advertising campaign and had so many people excited, rightfully so, because what they put out is awesome, as we all said. But it's like it just so subtly missed the mark that just a bummer, because I don't see it ever reaching that point that they like quote unquote promised.
Right. Wow.
And time will unfortunately tell on that one.
Yeah.
Even on top of Resistance not running always at full strength, there's a million and one other obstacles that have arisen since then.
Yeah,
in the
seriously.
world.
Seriously.
Who knows what'll happen to Galaxy's Edge? I can tell you one thing: it won't become Aladdin.
Yeah.
That won't happen. And if you were the guy who wrote that article, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Wow.
We can put our DVP stamp on that. Boom. Not become Aladdin.
Won't become Aladdin.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. Boom, segue. And we'll be right back and have an open conversation about Disneyland and Mulan.
Yeah. There we go.
We'll be right back. Hey everyone, we are back, and we're gonna try to wrap this up fairly soon because it's late for me, and Spencer's been in class for 7 hours, so he's
statement.
He's the real trooper here. Me too. Jake doesn't do shit. Anyway, kidding, Jake. I love you. So we're gonna talk a bit about Disneyland. If anyone is a fan of Mice Chat, they're pretty good. They're on Twitter a lot. They got a nice website. Mice Chat posted something today about the blueprint for reopening Disneyland. And I wanted to kind of bring it up because it's something that I think a lot of people kind of have on their mind right now, is like Disneyland's been kind of like up and down with this reopening thing, how they, it was announced that it would reopen and then California went to shit. So then that couldn't happen, unfortunately. But California has received a new blueprint for reopening. I'm probably not the most qualified person to talk about it because I don't live in California currently. But I have lived in California, so maybe I'm a little qualified. Basically, there's a new ranking for county risk level, ranging from minimal to widespread, based on the number of new cases and positive tests. County must, this is from Mice Chat, a county must remain at its assigned tier for at least 3 weeks before being able to move to a less restrictive tier. To move forward, a county must meet the next tier's requirements for at least 2 weeks, but a county will be moved back to a more restrictive tier if they fail to meet their current tier status for 2 weeks in a row. Each county's data will be reevaluated every Tuesday. Why choose Tuesday? I don't fucking know.
Weird.
Yeah, probably because it's the worst day of the week. You ever think about that? Tuesday is the worst day of the week. Monday is fine because you got that fresh energy from the weekend.
I see that.
And then Wednesday, you're like, oh, I'm halfway through. Tuesday, you're just stuck in the middle of shit.
Right.
I would argue
sucks.
Thursday's the worst because you get over the Wednesday hump, but it's still not Friday.
Yeah, it's like a bit of pre-jack, It's not, what you really want.
It's kind of true. Well, I would put my money behind Tuesdays and Thursdays being the worst days.
Yeah, they are the worst days.
Definitely top 7 worst days. Yeah. Anyway, did you get that? Did you get that joke?
Top 7 worst days.
Because there's only 7 days.
Look at that, Lane with the wordplay, Mr. Funny Guy over here.
Gotcha. Well, no one laughed at it, so what am I supposed to do?
Anyway, that's a knee slapper.
So basically, there's on this blueprint. There's like a whole fancy ass graph that someone's probably real proud of how they made it in Excel and shit. But based on which tier the county enters, that depends on what can be open, ranging from movie theaters to hotels, retail, restaurants, the wineries, because California, bars, family entertainment centers, hence Disneyland, museums and shit, and then sports arenas. So basically, tier 1 is family entertainment centers. So tier 1, people can be at Disneyland, but it's outdoor only with modifications. Examples of this are kart racing, mini golf, and batting cages. That's kind of what they're thinking of. I don't know what tier Orange is currently in. Maybe you guys do because you
I
live
think
there.
we're off the watch list.
I have no idea.
Okay. And then tier 2, basically that means that things are outdoor only with modifications. Same thing. Tier 3, max 25% capacity. And then this is open indoors for naturally distanced activities, and even then it's a max 25% capacity. Their examples for that are bowling alleys and climbing walls. I don't feel like you're too far away from people in a bowling alley, but that's just me. Open, and then stay tier 4, which is like I think that's like you're doing pretty good at this point. You're open indoors for activities with increased risk of proximity and mixing with modifications. So max 50% capacity, 50. Arcade games, ice and roller skating, indoor playgrounds is their example of that. So maybe they'll open the McDonald's playground. We haven't had like official guidelines posted for theme parks. And there's speculation on when that might happen, or which tier they'll, and the article talks about this, which tier theme parks will ultimately be like allowed to start up operations in. But yeah, I mean, they do kind of talk a bit about this in the article, but I kind of agree with them. Is like the thought of going to Disney World isn't really is kind of the same level of fear that I have when I go to the grocery store. So like, I wouldn't be that concerned about it. Like that's why I'm not, too scared of the fact that, we know people that went to Disney World. It's like, yeah, well, I go to the store once a week. So, is there really a lot of danger there? But the speculation about all this is like, how does Disneyland factor into this new system, and when could it possibly be opening? Perhaps in the near future. Perhaps things in Orange County dramatically improve suddenly. And like you guys said, I think you're off the watch list. And then Disneyland gets to reopen. But yeah, that's kind of the news with this, is that it's possible, but California is not like Florida, and takes the virus a bit more seriously. So it's probably still going to be a while, in my opinion, before Disneyland opens up operations. And yeah, so that's the update on that. Jake, do you have anything to say about it?
I guess so. I mean, I agree with the last bit that you said, that I am in the camp where I think it is going to be further away, not sooner away.
Yeah.
But some of the news is saying the opposite. Like, although it is vague and kind of hard to understand, there is somewhat of a plan that like California has put into place for a place like Disneyland to try to allow themselves to reopen. At least for me, I know this got tipped off when my buddy was telling me that all the nighttime lights were on for like the first time in forever.
Yeah.
Like lighting effects, not just like the park was lit up, but like things were lit.
And downtown Disney's open, right?
Has been open for a while. Yeah.
I think that it's open because stores are open. So like, as long as people can shop, then they technically have the ability to say, oh, well, downtown Disney's for shopping, so we can open it.
As far as I'm aware, a lot of the restaurants are outside as well. But I could be wrong. I have not been, full disclosure, but
yeah, me neither.
I don't really know why I'm like down the street.
Hey man, Naples is outdoors.
Dude.
I feel like
it would be getting big old sides of ranch at Naples.
Oh my God. Yeah. Listeners, if you've never been to Naples Pizzeria, I think it's Naples Ristorante is the official name.
Probably.
And in downtown Disney in California. Boy, should you go. It is a fun time. They make fantastic pizzas that are well worth the money, and big sides of ranch. There you go, Naples.
There's the selling point right there. Big sides of ranch.
Dude, if Naples sponsored us, I would be a happy man.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd feel pretty good.
Yeah.
But the other thing about the news
Jake's gonna try to wrap this back around.
Reel it back in. Okay,
You know,
so
going off your comment about Naples.
I was watching a video basically right before we got on, a Fresh Bake video about how Josh D'Amaro, the apparent president of the Parks organization, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but he's just
I think he's the
charge
president of Walt Disney World, or did he go up now the ladder?
I think.
Oh, he's just the chair. He's the chairman of Parks. He's like the president of Parks.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Okay,
that's like what Chapek used to be.
Yes. So essentially, the chairman. Chairman of the Parks was on a interview with some financial news channel, and he essentially, the guy asked him a question: what kind of technologies are you developing to try to either get places open or keep people safe while they're there? And he said a bunch of things. I'm sure that you guys could guess, mobile ordering makes perfect sense. Reservation system makes perfect sense. Da, 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 da. But at the end of it, he said something like, specifically, the reservation system will probably be here to stay. And the video that I was watching was the guy speculating, is he specifically only talking about Florida? Is he talking about Disneyland too? Is it going to open up and annual passes are going to be a thing of the past because you need to, everything is going to be reservation? Essentially, that's already how Orlando operates. What are we thinking? And then right after he gives this little interview, all the lights are on at night, and then California drops in theory, step by step for how this thing is opening. So that's where a lot of the conversations have been coming from as of recent, because it's not like the virus numbers are getting dramatically better or honestly dramatically worse. They are what they are. And it's kind of is the energy worth it, I guess, to try to reopen this thing? I don't know. I mean, I think I speak for all of us. I'm not going to go. And no shade to people that we know that have been to Orlando. Honestly, I'd probably go to Orlando if I'm being honest with you. Just, I don't know, something about it. Maybe it's just because I know how small it is. Just think about the Matterhorn queue, how close it is. And obviously, once it eventually does reopen, these things are going to be all different. Maybe everything is a reservation. So the only people in the queue are literally the people who are about to get on the trains. Who knows? It's probably going to be a very different experience. But
so this is something we've talked about before within the last few months. But what if, do you guys still think that it's possible that they could open, just Main Street and kind of have that be a step one? Or, let's say that they have downtown Disney open, Main Street open, and Buena Vista Street and DCA open.
Kind of they just open up the gates and it all becomes one big shopping district.
Yeah, but they still have those morning ropes up, those pre-rope drop guarded off areas. Exactly. So you can't really go into the park, but you can go down and take a picture in front of the castle, do that sort of thing, take a picture with
lunch,
have lunch. Actually, character dining isn't happening right now, but the cafes are there.
So kind of just open without attractions, so to speak. Right.
Yeah,
that's to a T exactly what Knott's Berry Farm is doing right now.
Yeah, that's they have the taste of Ghost Town or something.
Right, but it's extended through the whole park now.
Oh, is it?
So literally everything, you can probably pay a very small price, and you just get to have an afternoon at the quote unquote park. Walk around, take your pictures, get dinner somewhere, hang out at the shops, and just leave. Again, am I going to do that? Probably not, but people are, and it sounds like a fun night to have.
Yeah.
I think that sounds brilliant, especially in the case of Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah,
where a lot of its legacy is kind of based on food.
Right.
And the title Berry Farm, the chicken is very famous.
True.
So for them, it makes a lot of sense. I'd be hard pressed to think they'd do that in Disneyland. There is a certain sanctity kind of to Main Street as a lead into the rest of the park. So I think
that's true.
Even if they pitch that idea around, it would be a little bit of I think it'd be shot down pretty quick. And Disney isn't in the case of Knott's. I know Knott's is represented by Cedar Fair or is owned by Cedar Fair, but not a lot of the Cedar parks aren't open either. So they're hurting for quite a bit of cash. They don't have, the entertainment conglomerate of Disney to fall back on. So it makes sense for me in the case with Knott's, but I would be shocked if they did that in Disneyland. Again, as I said earlier, nothing makes any sense anymore. So maybe that would happen, but I would very highly doubt it.
What
as interesting of a concept as it is.
Right. I would be shocked too if they were to do that. But the thing is, like, your initial point, which opened my eyes, I didn't think of it exactly, is like, yeah, Main Street, Buena Vista Street, every park kind of has like, it's very like a staple of it is a lead-in, and you walk by the icon and whatever. And what you were saying is like, it would be so odd to, not only mute the lead-in, but then just like, that's it. Right.
Right.
But the thought is, it's going to be muted. Like, what the next time we go, even if it's a year from now, a year and a half, 2 years from now, there's going to be plexiglass up. There's going to be lines all over the floor. It's going to be muted and weird, whether it's all open or whether it's just Main Street. And that's what I've heard about Orlando. It's empty and it's weird, and you have to stand in certain places, and there's glass, and like, hell, it sounds really fun, but it's not a normal experience. So if they're okay with not doing normal experiences, then kind of why not?
Yeah, I was going to say, it really depends where the heads of the Disney executives are at. And if they fully are in the camp of like, this is the new normal, nothing's ever going to revert back to the way it was, then they very well may. It really depends what their outlook on the situation is. And it seems like everyone has their own take on how life post-coronavirus, if there is going to be a post-coronavirus, will look like. I still refuse to give up hope that someday I'll be able to go to a concert and it won't be scary madness,
Yeah.
But I also believe in science, and I trust, the consensus of that's not a good idea right now, and at least not for the foreseeable future, which is a huge bummer. As someone who's like, big things are movies, music, and theme parks, I'm kind of getting wrecked. And if I'm like cool with just letting science do its thing, then I think you should be too. Yeah. And I think that as much as I would be tempted to go to the parks, it's really just what they feel safe doing. And I guess if they think this is the new normal, then they very well may do the opening of like the entrances. Who knows?
Nice.
Yeah, that was my 2 cents. There you go, people.
So with that said, let's wrap up the show. As we said at the top of the episode, Mulan is coming out this weekend. We do intend on watching it. We're going to try to find a time. Hopefully we can talk about it next episode. If not the next one, mainly it's probably going to depend on when we can have Preston and Joe on the show to talk about their experiences at Disney World. But stay up to date. We'll be updating our Twitters with some stuff, probably post a poll or something sometime this week in preparation for our next episode. So make sure you check that out. And thank you for listening to this episode of Disney Deconstructed. If you'd like to further support our program, go ahead and visit us at anchor.fm/Disney Deconstructed. There you can see a complete list of our podcast distributors, send us messages that are related to the show, and even sign up to make a monthly donation so that we can keep pushing out these episodes in a timely manner. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at Lane Calder, at Jake Moody 98, and at Spencer Bennett 7. You can also spread the word by telling a friend about our show and help us grow our community of Disney fanatics. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll be back with more Disney news next week. Writing, producing, and editing for this episode of the Disney Deconstructed podcast was done by my two co-hosts, Jake Moody and Spencer Bennett, and myself, Lane Calder. The music for our program was composed by Brandon LaBelle. The font for our logo was designed by Edward Pincava. Our beautiful faces were drawn by Sarah Bermudez. Disney Deconstructed is a proud participant in the Deconstructed Podcast Network, link in the description. Thanks for joining us, folks, and we'll see you down the bayou.